Have you ever walked into the gym, looked over at the squat rack, and saw the guy with the duffel bag of equipment and wondered to yourself, what in the world do you need all of that stuff for? Today, I want to talk to you about gym equipment. The lovely people at barbend.com have released a list of 7 pieces of equipment that they think you need to continue to get stronger. So I thought I'd take a look at the list, give my recommendations for when, if ever, you should purchase some of these items, if you're a beginner, intermediate to advanced, whether or not these might help you. First up on this list is the lifting belt, and I think that a lifting belt is one of the best purchases you can make as you continue to advance in your lifting career. I don't think that as a beginner you should be worried about a lifting belt. As a beginner, you want to understand the fundamental concepts of bracing. And a lifting belt is primarily a tool to enhance your bracing. It is something to give you kind of haptic feedback so that you can understand what bracing is. A pretty big misconception a lot of people make is thinking that the belt is going to brace for you, when in actuality, the belt is there for you to brace against. It is something that you can use to get the feeling of what a good brace should feel like. So as you begin your fitness journey, when you're just learning to squat, to deadlift, to even do a barbell row, understanding how to brace your core effectively without the use of one of these tools is invaluable. As you get stronger and stronger, you may want to flesh out that bracing process, and this is where a lifting belt comes in. Especially in powerlifting, squatting and deadlifting in a belt can enhance your lifting experience. It may not put a ton of pounds on your total, but it will enhance your lifting experience to a certain degree. Everyone's different, there's individual difference here. There are some people that squat and deadlift beltless, and they do just fine in competition. So it's something to experiment with, but it's not gonna make or break you. Number 2, we've got straps, and I have come under a lot of flack in the past because I love straps. I think straps are fantastic, but again, much like the belt, straps serve a purpose for intermediate to advanced lifters, and if you are a beginner, I think you should go strapless. As a beginner, you are not just training your back when you do your pulling or your rowing movements, you are also training your grip, which is incredibly important. So if you are taking that fundamental element out of your training very early on by using straps, you're missing out. As you advance, you may not want your grip to be the limiting factor. For example, if you're going for a set of 6 on a deadlift, and you can make it to 6 in your posterior chain, in your low back, in your hamstrings, but your grip is given out at 3 reps and you're not able to complete the set, that is a fault of your grip that needs to be addressed with a tool like a lifting strap. And I can already hear you, you can't use straps on the platform, I get it. But for volume work, to really get a proper stimulus in the deadlift that is going to continue to build your deadlift, I think straps are pretty valuable in that process. When you are in competition prep, it might be time to pull some of those straps out. Everything on this list is a tool, and it has its season, and it has its season to not be used. So those are lifting straps. I think they're fantastic. Moving right along, let's talk about lifting shoes. You could walk into the gym and see 5 different people wearing 5 different pieces of footwear in the gym for a given lift. There is a ton of variety. You have squat shoes, deadlift slippers, people deadlifting in Converse. Point is, footwear can enhance your lifting experience. Take the squat, for example. If you are struggling to hit depth, it might be time to throw on some squat shoes. They're gonna elevate your heel. They may allow you to hit depth more easily, and they are competition legal, so you can use them in the competition. I love squat shoes. I find that I get a better base when I am squatting with my flat-soled squat shoes. For deadlifts, it's very similar. The flatter the deadlift shoe, the better contact you can make with the floor. This may or may not impact your deadlift a ton, but if you're somebody who's been deadlifting in sneakers or Converse, getting a little bit closer to the ground, cutting that range of motion a little bit, finding a way to get into starting position a little bit easier might put some pounds on your deadlift pretty rapidly. So I think it's worth trying out. Money is important. If you are new to the gym and you're just testing the waters, you may not want to throw $150 on a pair of squat shoes and a pair of deadlift shoes. Find out if you actually like this sport. Specifically, I'm talking about powerlifting here. Do powerlifting style training for 3 to 6 months without any of the gear. And if you like it, you're making strength gains, then you can start throwing your money around and grab a couple pairs of shoes. But don't think that you need all of this stuff before you start training the big 3 lifts. Go in in, train the big 3 lifts, and then throw the stuff on top of it to get more of an advantage. Number 4 on this list is knee sleeves. And I think knee sleeves get a bad rap online because a lot of people think that knee sleeves are doing more than they're actually doing. For some reason on Instagram, there's this huge trend about squatting with no knee sleeves, no spotter, no wife, no will to live, whatever. I think this comes from the fact that a lot of people think that knee sleeves are gonna put on like 20 to 30 kilos onto your squat, when in actuality, the knee sleeves that are on the market right now maybe 5 to 10 pounds, but they're more so there for the feeling of stability that they give. Even if you're using the Inzer sleeves or the rigor mortis sleeves that are just insanely stiff, you're not gonna get that much of a bounce out of the hole that a lot of people think you're gonna get. They are more so there for you to feel like your knees are a little bit stable. Coming from personal experience, when I have my knee sleeves on, I feel like I can push a little bit more because my knees feel a little bit more safe. It could be placebo, I don't know, but they do help me mentally be prepared to push a little bit more. In the same vein, let's talk about elbow wraps or sleeves. Now, these are not competition legal if you are going to compete in powerlifting. I don't know of any federations that allows you to use elbow sleeves on the bench press, and I'm pretty sure there are no federations that allow you to use elbow sleeves on a squat. I use them on a squat when I'm training because I am in a very low bar position. Shoulder mobility is not great, I'm working on it, but it's not perfect. So a lot of the times, if I'm doing a lot of volume on low bar squats, my elbows are trashed. So I'll throw the sleeves on just to keep the joint a little bit warmer. If you're using elbow sleeves to keep the joint warm while you're squatting and you're going into competition, it might be time to pull those out once again, just to get used to actually competing raw, if that is in the federation that you're competing in. If you're a bodybuilder, I really think a good pair of elbow sleeves are gonna do wonders for you. Basically, you wanna be able to push as hard as you can as a bodybuilder without any of the detrimental joint stress. Because if you're pushing hard, you're gaining muscle, and if your joints start to feel bad, you're not gonna be able to train as hard as you can. So in a bodybuilding context, I think utilizing any of these tools is very, very impactful. So I'd really recommend finding yourselves a good pair of elbow sleeves and just throwing them on wherever you're doing any of your pressing movements. Next up is wrist wraps. These are competition legal, so you can use them whenever, and I would recommend that you do so. The wrist is a joint that can get really out of whack really quickly. A lot of people, when they're going for bench pressing, when they're learning how to bench press, they have the bar sitting very far back in their hand, causing a lot of torque on the wrist. Now, that can be addressed through a technique change, holding the bar a little bit lower in your hands, but also through adding in wrist wraps to keep that joint a little bit more stable as you're going for the press. I would definitely recommend getting yourself a solid pair of wrist wraps. I really like the thicker material, not so much the cotton material. Mine are from A7, no affiliation, but I do think that they're very, very solid. They are gonna keep your wrist in line. Let's just put it that way. Find yourself a pair that works best for you, that feels comfortable for you, and go for those. Last but not least, on the bar bend list, they have lifting chalk, which I think is a little specific to powerlifting. If you're training in a commercial gym, you gotta be careful here because they don't really love block chalk. It gets everywhere. They don't love to clean it up. You may be asked to leave. I have seen people asked to leave at the commercial gym that I work at. So maybe go with a liquid chalk there. Chalk is incredible for grip issues. So if you don't want to throw the straps on, you can use chalk in competition. You can start to train with chalk. So those are Barbend's recommendations. I'm pretty much in line with all of those. I think these are solid recommendations as you continue your training career. I don't think this is a prerequisite list in order to get into the gym. You don't need any of this stuff to get into the gym. Just go in and start training and start adding on these tools as you become more serious in the sport. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. If you want a more in-depth breakdown on deadlifting shoes, you can click this video right here. I will see you in the next one. Get strong and stay strong.